after months of no answers, I finally received the worst that I possibly could have ever gotten. I have stage 4 cancer and there was nothing I could do about it. My doctor gave me 3 months tops. I began to think of all the things that I should have done in life. Been a better wife, gave more money to my church, that kind of thing. After a couple of hours of processing my diagnosis, I came to the conclusion that I was going to kill my husband and his mistress. Let me explain. I've known about his affair for a little over a year, but I haven't said anything to him. He is a respected doctor in the medical field. He goes from coast to coast to medical conventions and gives speeches about the good that medicine does. His head nurse, Melody, is always by his side. She is the equivalent of the pretty magician's assistant. She's young, in her 30s, blonde, and has the body of a goddess. She's the one that has been fucking my husband. I caught on rather quickly when I found a pair of her high heels under our bed when I was vacuuming one day. He had her over at the house while I was attending a church retreat in Austin. I asked him about them and he said he packed them in his suitcase by mistake. Another instance was that he would come home smelling of her perfume. The last case on one of his trips, I bought a plane ticket and attended his conference in Baltimore last August. I watched them as they were having dinner after his speech. I didn't think much of it until I saw them holding hands. They then took the elevator to the 4th floor and I saw them making out before they entered the room. I stood outside the door and listened to them having sex. My world was shattered. She has no family, so he would invite her over for our Christmas dinner, cookouts, and even my grandson's softball games. I hate her just as much as I hate my husband. Every time I look at her, I want to tear her face off. Last week, while I was sitting home alone yet again, I came up with a plan on how I was going to take out my abuser and his little skank. He is in his office at the hospital late Wednesday nights doing quote-unquote work. Of course, that's what he tells me. This is while I'm conveniently at my church's Wednesday night group. In my head, I have nicknamed Melody work. It's my own little way of coping. My plan is to barge into that office with the gun my uncle bought me when I was in college at Texas State. He gave it to me for protection. I haven't used it in over 30 years, but now I'm starting to think it's overdue. To add insult to injury, my husband doesn't know about my cancer diagnosis, and I haven't even let on that I was sick. He wouldn't have noticed anyway, because of the little attention that he gives me anyway. That's because I don't look as good in a black sequins dress than Melody does. My husband is the definition of a pig. I fucking hate him. If I really do have 3 months to live, I will never see the inside of a prison cell. That is if I'm caught. Best case scenario, I rid the world of a cheater and his side piece. Worst case is I die in a courtroom during my trial. Either way, I win. I am writing this as my manifesto. If my son Stephen finds this notebook, I hope that he would understand. Hell, if anybody else finds it, I hope they themselves would understand. You can't go through life getting into trouble without any consequences. I am in my car writing this in the parking lot while I'm parked between my husband and Melody's cars. I have the gun in the passenger seat, loaded, and I've downed half a bottle of Jack Daniels. I'm going into the hospital now. Stephen, I love you. I had to do what I had to do. Please forgive me. Let Henry know how much I love him too.
That was the last thing that my mother wrote before tragedy struck. My mother did go into my father's office and shoot him and his assistant. She then turned the gun on herself and was found with a smile on her face. My mother was ill. She was not in her right mind. The cancer that she had was an inoperable brain tumor. It was about the size of a golf ball according to the autopsy report. If she wasn't so bitter, she could have gotten it in time and had it removed. She insisted she was fine, though I could see her sickness growing on her face as time went by. And to be honest, I could see something else growing. I just didn't know it was hate. I never knew about my dad's marital affair, and I always thought Melody was a sweet young woman who was great with Henry. I, of course, have a new established hatred for what my dad did, as well as what my mother had done. Did they all three deserve to die? I don't believe so. What I do believe is whatever you put into this lifetime will come back to you in a greater form. My son, Henry, lost 2 grandparents on the same night. I am not telling him what happened, and I want to protect him from the horror, which was my mother's vengeance. I told him they were hit by a semi-truck on the way home from the movies. I might tell him the actual truth when he's older, when he would understand and process his emotions properly. But right now he's grieving the deaths of his 2 loving grandparents. I am concluding this story with one simple message. Revenge is never the answer. It will destroy the ones you love, inside and out. Thank you for taking time out of your day to read this. Hug your loved ones a little tighter tonight. Who knows what the future holds for us?
I stared at my reflection, toothbrush hanging in my mouth, eyes drawn to the thin, pale scar beneath my collarbone. It's been there as long as I can remember. Whenever I ask Mom about it, she averts her eyes, or gets mad, like I've accused her of something. The scar shapes what I wear, how I stand, how I feel in my own skin. I shake my head, try to forget, turn the faucet on. Time to get ready for school. From downstairs, I can hear, "Isabella, come on, you're gonna be late." My mother is always bossing me around like a drill sergeant. I'm always under a microscope with her. I'm surprised that she lets me sleep in my own bed all by myself. I finish brushing my teeth and throw my hair up in a messy bun. I grabbed my oversized Green Day hoodie and walk out of my bathroom and grab my backpack as I head down the stairs. I'm old enough to start driving, but Mom refuses to let me get even my learner's permit. She says she's fully capable of driving me anywhere I please. I know, first world problems, but my independence is always squashed right under her Louis Vuitton Lana pumps. God forbid I'd want to go to the movies with friends, or to see Grandma in Malibu by myself. It's aggravating. I often daydream my life not being her daughter. I would kill for a regular life. To have a job, worry about bills, or anything resembling normal. My mother is what you would call materialistic. She never leaves the house without having at least $10,000 worth of clothing or jewelry on herself. She owns a designer belt that could pay a full year's worth of rent for an apartment. It's another reason her and I don't get along so well, because I couldn't care less about my appearance. Vanity is overrated. I take a deep breath and descend down the stairs to the kitchen. A mound of blueberry pancakes, bacon, and cottage cheese sits on my plate, Mom's routine breakfast offering, though I've told her a dozen times I'm vegan. I push the plate aside, reach for almond milk and frozen fruit, stack ingredients into the blender with practiced ease. The blender's roar grates on her nerves, her perfectly manicured nails drum a frantic rhythm on the granite countertop. She shoots me a glare, purse already in hand. Let's go. We're late. I scarf down my smoothie in silence, then grab my backpack, slipping out the door and into her luxury SUV. I keep the silent treatment for the entire 3-mile drive, counting the seconds until I can escape. The day went off like normal, except when I got to biology class. We had the assignment to do a family tree. I never got a chance to do one because Mom would never tell me who my dad was. She always wrote a note to my teacher telling them to excuse me from the assignment, right after she'd write a check to the school district as a donation. She would literally pay off my teachers to excuse me. This time, I was going to find out for myself, not tell my mom and finally figure out who my dad is. I started in the library using their computer, which led me to a dead end. The librarian recommended that I go to the hospital to get my birth records. I thought it was a great idea, so I skipped the rest of the day and called an Uber to take me to the hospital and back to school before my mom knew I was ever gone. I had my grandma's credit card linked on the account. She said I could use it in case of an emergency. I arrived at the hospital and found my way to the records. Since I was 16, they allowed me to get them with no guardian needed. I obtained them from the hospital clerk and snapped a picture of my birth certificate on my phone. I didn't even look at it before I handed it back to the clerk. I got back to school like it was an average day. Mom picked me up and I didn't mention the family tree assignment. We got back home and she tells me to go upstairs and do homework while she makes dinner. I didn't hesitate and immediately ran upstairs like my head was on fire. Curled up on my bed, I open my phone and zoom in on the birth certificate photo. Under father, a name is typed in block letters, Ricardo Alvarez. The name hums in my chest, strangely familiar. Did Grandma slip up at family dinners? Did I read it somewhere? Downstairs, Mom calls for dinner, carne asada and fajita veggies. I pick at the veggies, mind spinning, hunger lost to the sudden storm inside me. I didn't sleep that well that night. I kept having my dad's name run through my mind. Where had I heard it? Was he famous? Did my grandma slip his name out at a dinner? The possibilities kept me up all night. That next morning I did my family tree assignment with tired eyes. Since I didn't know his extended family, I just filled him in on one side and Mom's extended family all the way back to the 1800s. She was proud of her Hispanic heritage and drilled her family's history into me since I could remember. At school I had my friend Bryson get me a sugar-free Red Bull before class. I chugged it right before my presentation of my family tree. It was finally my turn to present it. I ran through my mom's side of the tree because I had memorized it. When I told them I didn't know anything about my dad's side and just discovered who he was just yesterday, it was all I knew. I said his name, Ricardo Alvarez. The whole class, including my teacher, turned white as ghosts. As I stared at them in confusion, my teacher applauded and told me great job before forcing me back to my seat. More confusion ensued. After class, Bryson caught up with me and asked me if the rumors were true. Word had already spread who my father was. I told him yes, that he was my father according to my birth certificate. He swallowed hard and told me to meet him at his car at lunch. At lunch, Bryson told me who Ricardo Alvarez was. Right around the time that I was born, he was charged with the murder of 3 teenage girls, Sarah Jacobs, Michael Rosen, and Stephanie Christensen. Now, those names I knew. Their names were infamous throughout town. I just couldn't believe I'd never heard my father's name before. They were taken underneath the bridge on the east side of town and had their throats cut. Their bodies were found by a homeless man who originally was blamed for the murders. He was later found innocent. That's as far as the story went to my knowledge. I instantly was filled with rage towards my mother for keeping his identity from me. Dinner is a silent war zone. My fork scrapes the plate, rage simmers under my skin. At last, I snap. All these years, why didn't you ever tell me about my father, Ricardo Alvarez? She freezes, tears streaking mascara down her cheeks, lips trembling as she tries to form words. Where did you hear that name? I glare. You can't keep me in the dark forever. I found my birth certificate. The color drains from her face. She stammers something about protecting me, about safety, before her anger rushes back. You're grounded. I don't want another word about this. I storm upstairs, the truth echoing in my ears. I grabbed my pillow and screamed and cried into it. I couldn't believe I was the daughter of a murderer. How my mother kept it from me, and how it took me 16 years to figure it out. I needed more information, so I got on my laptop and searched Ricardo Alvarez on any website, subreddit thread, or newspaper article I could find. Each thing confirmed it. He was in fact guilty of murder. His fingerprints were all over the teenagers, and the knife they found in the lake was indeed his. I had commented on one of the subreddits that I was doing a report at school about him and any information would help. Not even 2 minutes later, a private message pings. You need to see this. There's a video link. My finger hovers, then clicks. Security footage, flickering with timestamps. A man runs down a hospital hallway, frantic, clutching a bundle. The camera catches his face, my father, Ricardo Alvarez. In his arms, a baby, and a knife pressed to the infant's throat. The timestamp, October 3rd, 2009. My birthday. As the police were closing in with their guns drawn, he pulled the knife closer to my throat, and just then he was shot, but not before the knife sliced right below my shoulder. I instantly palmed where my scar was. Then a bullet went right through my dad's skull and splattered blood on the hospital wall. The way he fell cradled my fall. I could be seen screaming as one of the officers picked me up and walked out of frame. The video ended with only my father's body lying there. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes before I slammed my laptop shut and once again screamed and cried into my pillow. I stared at my laptop, hands trembling. The security footage replayed in my head, my father, terrified, desperate, holding me like a lifeline and a weapon at the same time. The flash of the knife, my own scream, blood blooming across white hospital tile. Suddenly, my scar felt heavy, carved with questions instead of answers. Downstairs, I heard the hard click-clack of Mom's heels. For the first time, I understood her fear, the secrets she'd stuffed away, hoping they'd disappear. When she opened my door, her voice was soft, breaking, not the drill sergeant but someone unraveling before me. All this time, I thought I could protect you, she whispered, tears streaking her perfectly made-up face. But the truth finds its way out. I let the silence fill up the room. Everything in me wanted to rage, to lash out, but the video, my scar, even my father's cry, they all tangled together inside. Why didn't you tell me? I finally asked, voice raw. Mom crossed the room and, for the first time in years, held me, desperate and shaking. I let myself cry. All the anger, the loneliness, the shame, washed out in sobs. My questions didn't have answers, but my pain at least had somewhere to go. 3 days later, Grandma came to visit and found me sitting on the floor, clutching my phone looking at my birth certificate. My mom had called her, her own eyes swollen from grief and regret. I'm the daughter of Ricardo Alvarez, I said, voice steady, surprising both of us. But I'm also yours. Grandma wrapped me in her arms, and Mom stood behind us, uncertain but hopeful. For the first time, being someone's daughter felt less like a curse, and more like a beginning.
I just recently started a new job at my local hospital. At orientation, they informed me that I have full reign of the entire 3rd floor except for room 320. It was the only room on that floor that needed a security access badge to enter. Rumors were speculating what was behind the door of room 320. Passing time during our lunch breaks or long slow rides in the elevator would bring our imaginations out in the real world. Tristan, who had been working there for over 5 years, wasn't even allowed to go in there. He always joked that we were housing the Antichrist, and only people that were pure of heart could gain access. He also joked that since the room number was 320, if you multiply the 3 and the 2 you get 6, and there are 3 numbers on the room, so it would be the equivalent of 666. Angelica, the veteran of the floor, goes in there multiple times a day but never tells us what's inside. She either changes the subject or comes up with some off-the-wall story about how we have Walt Disney's severed head on a robot skeleton, and her job is to recalibrate the skeleton daily. Another time she told me that Jimmy Hoffa was in there on a ventilator and that the mob did a real number on him. You know, things like that. I just roll my eyes and move on. Angelica, the board of directors, the CEO, and an admin are the only ones who have the right keycard to get in. My curiosity got the better of me and I came up with a plan on how to get access. I would sweet-talk Wallace the admin and snatch his card when he wasn't looking. He's a lonely old man that doesn't have a lot going on in life. I'm not proud of myself, but hey, a girl needs answers. Wallace kept to a strict schedule, disappearing mid-shift to the basement lounge for his microwaved soup. Today was no different. I lingered in the vending machine alcove, pretending to puzzle over a bag of stale chips. When he finally shuffled by, his keycard dangling from that fraying lanyard, I made my move. One accidental brush past him, a sheepish apology, and it was in my pocket. My heart raced the whole walk back to the 3rd floor. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Swiping the card at room 320 felt like a dare. The lock hesitated, blinking, before releasing with a cold click. I slipped inside. The room was spotless, gleaming tiles, white walls, a single recliner bolted to the center, and a massive mirror covering the far wall. It looked less like a patient's room and more like a stage set for experiments or interrogations. I expected machinery behind the mirror, maybe a hidden patient or a secret staff area. Instead, when I looked, I saw myself, only my reflection wasn't mimicking me. It just sat in the chair and smiled. Suddenly cold, I took a step back, watching in horror as my reflection stood up on its own. I reached for the door, locked. The red light on the card reader glared. Behind me, the recliner scraped slowly across the floor by itself, as if something invisible was getting up. A voice echoed in my mind, "You shouldn't have come here." The reflection pressed its face against the glass, smile stretching too wide, eyes too dark. Its voice slithered through my head, "They only let me out when someone opens the door." The real lock clicked behind me. The door swung open. In the reflection, I watched my double slip out into the hallway, while I remained trapped inside, staring at a door with no handle on my side. As panic rose in my chest, I hurled myself at the glass, pounding and screaming, but the room swallowed every sound. The cold settled into my bones, making my lips numb, my knees weak. I turned, desperate for escape, but the door had vanished, a seamless wall now, with no seam, no handle. In the mirror, my double's lips curled into a grotesque version of my grin. It straightened her scrubs and strolled away, its footsteps echoing on tiles I could no longer touch. I tried to call out for help, but my voice fractured, first a rasp, then nothing at all. My throat burned with silent screams. Faces appeared beyond the mirrored wall, Angelica, Wallace, even Tristan, and a parade of blank-eyed administrators, all pausing to observe. Their features flickered and morphed, sometimes familiar, sometimes impossibly warped, always cold. Angelica met my gaze, her eyes utterly hollow. "Should have stayed out of 320, she whispered, but her mouth never moved. The sound gouged itself into my mind, cutting deeper than thought or memory. Time stretched and twisted. The lights overhead flashed between night and day. Hours bled into weeks, skin prickling with the throb of each second. My reflection continued to mimic me for a while, until it started changing, lagging behind, doing things I wasn't, grimacing when I smiled, crying when I raged. My own face in the mirror became unrecognizable, too long, too sharp, eyes swelling black with emptiness. I tried to cling to memories, my first day, the jokes, the taste of the cafeteria's burnt coffee. But the more I grasped for them, the more they slipped away, replaced by memories that weren't mine, grainy images of other faces, twisted screams, dark hallways that swallowed all light. Had I imagined my old life? Had I ever really existed outside this room? Then, one day, I saw the door click. A new figure entered, nervous, heart pounding, badge swiped with trembling hands. I pressed my ruined face against the mirrored wall as my reflection looked up, eyes shining with hunger. The chair behind her scraped forward, ready. I watched, powerless and unseen, as the cycle began again. My memories, voice, and even my name unraveled, replaced by a tidal wave of silent agony and the chilling certainty that I would remain, forever part of room 320. No matter who entered next, there would always be someone left behind. And as my hands, now foreign, spectral, pressed against the cold glass, I understood the deepest horror. Outside, the world would keep spinning. On this floor, they'd keep laughing, speculating, making jokes, and moving on. But room 320 would always be waiting, whispering in the dark, a secret hungry for someone curious enough to see what truly lies within. And soon, it would be someone else's turn to smile back from the other side.
The hospital at night, it's a world all its own. The buzz of daytime fades, replaced by a silence so thick you can almost taste it. Yet, beneath that quiet surface, life and death swirl in a dangerous dance. I am Lizzie, the night nurse. Early 30s. A wild flame of red hair and skin so pale it almost glows under the harsh fluorescent lights. Without my scrubs, I could be mistaken for something from a forgotten dream, ethereal, dangerous, perfect. But those scrubs, they cloak me in professionalism, hiding every curve, every secret I carry beneath that white fabric. They say beauty is power. And in my world, it's a weapon sharper than any blade. Behind these walls of cotton and sterile routine lies a hunger older than time, a hunger I've tamed but never truly satisfied. I was born on Halloween. My father vanished the day he saw the darkness flicker in my eyes. My mother's prayers were thin armor against the fire I carry, an ancient torment hidden beneath a mortal skin. I found my truth in whispers of an infamous woman, Elizabeth Bathory, the blood countess who bathed in the blood of the young to freeze time, to steal life. Her story wasn't just a legend, it was a promise. A curse. A destiny I claim as my own. Halloween night is sacred to me. The thin veil between worlds trembles. The air swells with desperation, with secret longings, and I am a hungry shadow waiting to consume them all. Tom, the security guard, was my first. Weariness shadowed his gaze, loneliness a silent language between us. Over long shifts, I drew him out, heard his confessions of a loveless marriage, of nights spent yearning for something real. I listened. I learned. I waited. One night, I invited him to my sanctuary, my apartment, just blocks away. As he crossed the threshold, the scent hit him first, sandalwood, burning beeswax, an undercurrent of something sharp and metallic. The room was dim, alive with flickering candlelight casting monstrous shadows on the blood-red walls. On the coffee table rested 2 glasses of wine, dark as freshly spilled blood, and beside them lay my Bible, not holy, but satanic. Pages curled and worn, marked with symbols no one else could read. The muted television played American Psycho, its cold violence a haunting echo of the night's truth. I served Tom a rare steak, its crimson flesh a silent invitation. The meal was slow, deliberate. Our voices dropped beneath the hum of the TV and the soft classical music I chose, elegant but unsettling. I traced the delicate map of veins on his wrist with a feather-light touch. His pulse startled beneath my fingers, taut and eager like a captured bird. Then the ritual began. A ceremony in shadows and whispered incantations. I lit candles one by one, their flames flickering like the pulse of some unseen beast. My words were low and ancient, weaving a spell older than kingdoms. As the knife's steel pressed cold against his skin, it was not just sacrifice, but communion. His blood spilled willingly into the bowl I had set, sacred and potent, the fire that reignited my mortal coil. Elena arrived soon after, fragile, trembling. A sprained ankle brought her to me, but her eyes held stories deeper than pain. I sat beside her, my fingers grazing over hers as I spun tales of the hospital's haunted nights, of darkness hiding behind every corner. She trusted me enough to follow me to my rooftop, under a sky heavy with distant thunder and the scent of autumn leaves burned to cinders. Back inside, the apartment embraced her with shadows and whispered promises. The same wine warmed her hands, and the flickering beeswax candles painted her face in ghostly light. Our seduction was slow, more delicate than Tom's storm. I told stories, soft and dangerous. My fingertips skated along her arm, igniting embers beneath soft skin. When her defenses fell, her blood became my offering, drawn in ritual circles on the floor. The knife's kiss was tender and certain as my lips met hers, the slow bloom of life fleeing beneath the burning candlelight where the satanic Bible watched silently. Every sacrifice is a symphony, notes of desire, fear, and dark transcendence blending into the night. The hospital hides the evidence, but my apartment, the altar, holds the true power. It's here that flesh and spirit meet and burn, where my eternal beauty is forged anew. As American Psycho flickers to its brutal end and shadows crawl like living creatures across the walls, I stand, blood on my hands, fire in my veins. Tonight, I will feed again. Tonight, the blaze will roar. Because hunger is a fire that can never be quenched. And I am its eternal flame. Forever beautiful. Forever young. Forever. Lizzie.